Welcome to I Read This Book with Chris, with me, Chris. Today we will be discussing Down in the Black Gang and Other Stories by Philip Jose Farmer. It's a collection of short stories by Philip Jose Farmer, and because it is Negroni week, I shall be having a Negroni. So Philip Jose Farmer, best known apparently for his World of Tears series, which I know nothing about, and his Riverworld series, which I know because I've seen, I think it was 2003, it's early 2000s, made for TV film, Riverworld, which I thought was surprisingly good, considering what the budget must have been. Very intriguing story, and I am keeping my eyes peeled to build up that series on a budget so I can read it. And the Riverworld series, after you die, you wake up on this world, this Riverworld, where people are brought back to life. People from all throughout history, all over the world, and I believe they are somehow able to understand each other. And there are these weird pillars that give you everything you need to survive, all your food, and I believe they also have tobacco and alcohol of some sort. And then seeing what political games and things happen, who's in, who's out, what slavery takes place. I don't know what goes on further on than what I've seen in the movie, but it was something. Something I've noticed, and I read on Wikipedia as well, is Philip Jose Farmer. So this was written in the 60s. I believe this was published in 71. Published in 1971, but all the stories themselves 67, 67, 61, 63, 60, 66, 64, 69. They are all working with religious themes and sexuality, and they do so in ways that you may not expect. These are not the traditional ways that people deal or wrestle with or create stories that are dealing with these two subjects, from what I have seen, from what I have read. And I have two stories here that I thought I would discuss quickly to sort of describe them. First off, one story I'm not going to discuss is Riverworld, which apparently was a short story, which was then turned into a novel, which was then turned into a series, which there have then been two different movies based off. But I actually could not read it because I sort of understood the concept already, and this was the first his first writing of it. And his concepts are the interesting part, since I already got the concept. The writing and the story not being written extremely well sort of pulled me away, or at least pulled me away in comparison to I knew the story was better later on. So I got distracted and I really couldn't read it. A Bowl Bigger Than Earth was 1967. Opens up with a man who you can figure out pretty easily, pretty quickly, that he has died. And this is him coming into the afterlife. Death has a wide pelvis, he thought, much later when he had time to reflect. I don't know what that means, but he had an impression of waking up from his deathbed. Obviously, death, he woke up, he didn't know what was going on. He finds himself sliding down a slope, a big giant slope, and he can see it. It's, frictionless. He just keeps sliding and sliding, and as he is sliding, sees at the bottom a rim, and he will eventually go and fly off of it and land into an ocean. But on his way down, he has time to recognize the body that he's in is not his body, not the body that he knew. It has no... How does he describe it? He also managed to see his own body. He began screaming again, the first terror driven out and replaced by, or added to as a higher harmonic, the terror of finding himself in a sexless body, smooth, projectionless, hairless. His legs hairless too, no navel, his skin a dark brown, like an Apache's. He also doesn't have a face. All of the features that he knew, are gone. It's not his face, not his body, not his skin. Hairless, skinless. His head was as smooth as an egg. So he's coming to senses. He died, woke up in a new body. When he's thrown off the ledge into an ocean, he sees a lot of other people also flying, landing into the ocean. And there are boats with people. All of the people are identical. They all look like him. And they come and to say, hey, come here, we got you. Hop in this boat. And first he fights the guy off, and the guy sort of threatens him. And he said, you're going to want to get in the boat. So he gets in the boat. He's brought back in, and he sort of explains to him what's going on here. So from that guy and the guy, when he gets brought to land, he learns, basically, hey, this is the way things work around here. You'll be given a job. You'll probably change jobs a few times. And you'll be given a place to live. Everything is given to you. You don't have to worry about that. But there are certain rules that you must follow. One is nobody has a name. Nobody has a name. Nobody has a sex. Everyone looks exactly the same. And you have to treat everyone the same. You get somewhere. You will have an apartment, but if other people want to come into your apartment, of course you gotta let them. The apartment's yours, but you can't stop other people from coming in. And this is where the strange things happen. He meets a couple of different characters who sort of explain to him the dark underbelly, I guess. He is explained, first off, if he breaks any rules, he's going to get in trouble. And there is a police force of sorts. And it is watched over, the whole place is watched over by these other beings. They're watchers. I don't forget the term they use for it. Protectors. Who watch them and make sure they don't do anything wrong. The first person who comes into his house that he's not expecting basically is saying, hey, even though we don't have any of the organs, to do anything, we can still go and have some fun, We just gotta, try a little bit, use our imagination, and we'll be able to have a good time. And at first he tries, and then he's like, no, I can't do this. It's too much trying to get any arousal. His body's confused, and so he pushes this person away and kicks them out, saying, you can't be here. This is not how it's going to work. And then later on, because he did this thing and he kicked this person out, which he wasn't supposed to, apparently one of the things the protectors can do is if you do this and you break the rules, you're supposed to turn yourself in. If you don't, you get a migraine. You're in pain. And this pain will be there until someone goes and turns themselves in for the wrongdoing, which he doesn't do. And another one of his neighbors comes in and says, I have the solution. And then he says, I'm going to gnaw on your leg and drink your blood. So he goes and he starts gnawing on his leg, starts drinking his blood. And the pain from there then goes, and he's no longer paying attention to the pain in his head. And so everything's good, or, fixed. And he's like, what the heck's going on here? And he's like, you're supposed to love your neighbor. What's the rule? Why can't we do this? I do it for you, you do it for me. We're all friends here, basically. And it doesn't do you any harm because you magically get healed up. You can't actually hurt yourself. And it sort of slips out this person has been here for at least 100 years, where he's just arrived. So the story ends with him and this other person just gnawing each other. This is a very strange story. I can't exactly figure out what it is, what it's supposed to mean. It's either a nihilistic afterlife, or it's a weird version of hell that he's playing with. I like the idea of a nihilistic afterlife because I don't know if that makes sense conceptually, but at the same time it kind of does. It's kind of like reincarnation, but not. There's never any explanation for who the protectors are, why they're able to cause some pain but not able to actually call you out, why everyone looks the same, or why there's no sex. If these things are things that you find interesting, this is a story I would pick out, and I'm sure you can find it online pretty easily. A Bowl Bigger Than Earth by Philip Jose Farmer. The second story I'd like to bring up is A Few Miles. A Few Miles is a story about a lay brother. So he's not a priest, but he's also not a monk, not yet, working in a monastery. He's been there. It's almost his time to decide whether or not to commit. because if you want to join a monastery or not a nunnery, what's it called? Maybe it is called a nunnery. Monastery or the one for nuns. If you would like to join either one of those, normally it's, hey, you go and you have a little discussion with the people, you visit a couple of times, and then you go and you live there for a little while, and before you decide and you actually commit. Because if you can go and start and then you decide you don't want to, that's better than before you make your vows and everything, saying this is the way you're going to live your life. So that's the position this Brère Jean Carmody is in. He is called to the overseer's office, the guy who's running the place, saying, hey, we need you to go to this other planet and find the people there and help them. What's it called? The Father Superior, you are to go to Wilden Woolley at once and report to the Bishop of Brignac. And this brother, this man of the cloth, says, okay. That's all of the instruction he was given. Is you need to go to this planet and report to the bishop. He was not given anything, no money. It's a different planet, no way to get to the other planet. Just told to show up at this planet, go to the bishop, he'll tell you what to do. So not knowing what to do, deciding the best plan is to just head towards the spaceport, he starts walking. You figure out a little bit about the place. The planet from his walking. One is all the policemen now are robots. He asks one of the robot police, hey, how do we get there? How do I walk to the spaceport? And the robot doesn't know how to answer. So he's like, how do I get to the nearest train station? And then what direction does the train go? So he says, I'm just going to walk according to the, instructions. Because he doesn't have enough money to get on the train to go to the spaceport. And as he is walking there, he sees a restaurant that's on fire. He goes, tries to help it out, realizes the guy there has a machine that makes all the food that is out of order, and he said, I can help. And as he's doing so, you learn that unions are very strong here. He makes a couple of jabs at unions, which I find funny, being in a union. Apparently, let's see. So he makes a couple of jabs at the union. The machine can only be fixed by the union. The union has a camera constantly pointed at the machine. So if anyone besides either the direct owner of the machine or a union member fixes it, they can go and picket the place. But apparently picketing has now become unionized. Are you out of your skull? Said the big man. The human picket union just upped their hourly rates and we can't afford to hire any. And we don't have enough men of our own to spare for picketing. Besides, the damn pickets are pushing through a law to make it illegal for anyone except a picket union member to picket. The nerve of them guys. I don't know, pointing fun at the hypocrisy of unions, which they definitely, at one point, definitely were, and some unions still are. I don't know if my union still is. I mean, technically I'm a Teamster, which don't have the best history. I found it funny. Anyway. And so he goes, he helps fix this guy's machine. There's the whole union interaction. He manages to attack, the guys attack him, and he's able to protect himself and the guy. And he continues on his way after he gets a meal. He goes through a park. There are a lot of kids who are speaking such slang that it's impossible almost to understand what they're saying. There's a beach at the lake that's a nude beach that he can't go into because he's a member of the cloth. So he has to avoid that. There are kids doing what kids do on the beach, and not on the beach, in bushes, what young couples do, which he tries to avoid. And then as he's going, he accidentally falls into a pit that has this creature from another planet. This creature goes and attacks him. He's able to push it off, but only after it managed to lay an egg on his chest, which then starts to work its way into him. So his blood vessels then go, and he basically becomes pregnant with this egg that's laid on him. His blood vessels come in, and he needs to it's running off of his circulatory system, yada yada. He's trying to figure out what to do. He thinks he also gets some lice on him from the bird. He tries to go find a beach. He finds a secluded spot where he can hop in the lake. He hops in. He manages to clear the lice from him, but the egg is still stuck. When he gets out of the water, he sees someone stole his clothes. So he goes back to the kids that were having fun in the bushes, and they left their clothes there, and they had fallen asleep. So he borrows their clothes in order to go and try to find some way of clothing himself so he can return the clothes to the kids. As he does so, they find out, oh no, that's the guy that stole my clothes. He runs, manages to escape, makes it into the city, where someone else is like, hey, I can help you with your problem. There's this guy who likes eating strange things, and you have an egg. He'd love to be able to take the egg, and he'll pay you fairly for it, and he'll be able to take you to where you needs to go. And he's like, okay, but I'm sorry I can't do that. This egg is not mine. This belongs to the zoo. Let's see if I can call the zoo. At which point, several people attack him because he's not willing to do what they want. He fights them off. A police comes and knocks them all out. And he wakes up in a hospital bed. The egg's still attached. And the director of the zoo saying, we've been trying to get this creature to lay an egg for a long time. Because it's something we haven't been able to do. So this egg is so valuable. We can't disconnect it from you because you'll die. But we can use you and have you hold onto the egg and carry it on your person until it's ready to be born. If we do that, then we'll be able to, if you're willing to, give a few months of your life to be able to support this egg, we will be able to get you where you need to go to Wilden Will. He says, okay. That's the end of the story. I don't know, this story confused me as well and intrigued me. It's not like a lot of science fiction that I've read, which is antagonistic to religion. Or I actually found a short story collection that was written by extremely evangelical Christians. And every story you knew, yeah, this was what it is. And they were awful stories. Complete hogwash. This was someone who does not appear to be a Christian, but is interested in the story and seems honest with it. Every single thing that happened that was weird, they all pushed him towards the thing. His father superior had faith. Hey, go to this place. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to buy you a ticket to fly you there. You'll get there. He had faith that he could do it. And every strange thing that happened, there's actually a second story, which is a continuation of this story, another short story, which it's called Prometheus, that I don't think was quite as good, but was interesting as well. No matter what the ideas and the theme of his stories are, at least in these stories that I've read here, he takes them seriously. If we are in a world that has a nihilistic afterlife, what would happen? Some of the other stories, let's see. Down in the Black Gang, I don't know how to describe it all. The Shadow of Space, it's not super religious in theme. It's, in order to break the speed of light barrier, the faster you travel, the closer you arrive to the speed of light, there is some space-time distortions. And this is fixed by a machine that just makes you bigger. And so the faster they travel towards the speed of light, the bigger they get. And once a crazed woman takes over the ship, they become so big they're bigger than the universe. They leave the universe and realize the universe is an electron in a giant atom. And that sort of makes them lose their minds. There's The Bull Bigger Than Earth, Riverworld, A Few Miles. Prometheus is a continuation on the story of A Few Miles. The Brer, John Carmody, goes to the planet the creatures that laid the egg on him were from. He goes there, he manages to teach them language, and doing so they create a young civilization. He knows he has to leave, so after the egg on him hatches, he goes and basically gives them their own version of the Ten Commandments. The Blasphemers, a group of young kids, go and have a party on a sacred site. They are caught and Normally, the punishment would be execution for this crime, but the people in charge are like, there actually is not these gods that everyone thinks there is. This holy site isn't actually holy. I get that. You get that. So instead, we're going to go and send you out to explore some worlds. And when doing so, we're going to use this religion, and you're going to make signs of this religion on these planets so that people think that we have a right to land there and to conquer. But except when they get out there, they actually find the sign that they were supposed to go out there and make, at which point they have a little bit of a religious confusion, aren't sure what to do. And it was actually a pretty good story. And then How Deep the Groove deals with free will. They create a beam that can read your mind, and while aiming it at a unborn child in the stomach, they realize that all of the thoughts you're going to have in your life are currently going through this unborn child's head. They realize, so free will doesn't exist. All the grooves of your whole life are already pre-planned out for you. Yeah, I would suggest picking up the collection if you find it, if anything on this channel interests you at all. As a bonus pick, this is another novel I read that definitely does not deserve its own video. Preferred Risk by Edson McCann. Fast, wry, ingenious. Zips along at the broad highway charted by George Orwell in 1984. I guess it is a poor man's 1984, except it's the company that runs everything. And the person who is your protagonist is an insurance adjuster. So if you have not read enough science fiction where your protagonist is an insurance instructor, Preferred Risk is for you. Anyway, that's all I have to say about either of those. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Any comments about this video, put in the comment section. Do the things that people do in videos. Otherwise, I will continue to pretend this drink has any drink in it.